Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, an author you don't hear talked about nearly enough, David Morrell. So today I want to talk about an author who I think is fantastic based on the 4 books I've read by him, but who you don't hear talked about nearly enough, and that is the Canadian writer David Morrell. So Morrell's career started in 1972 with a book you almost certainly have heard of. Since then he's published 28 books, but he just isn't someone that you really see talked about. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that, which I'm going to talk about in this video. But I also want to do a review at the end of the video of this book, The Totem by him, which is the most recent thing by him that I've read. So as I've said, Morrell's career started in 1972 and his first book was First Blood. Clearly a title that is very well known to people because 10 years later in 1982 it was turned into a very successful movie with Sylvester Stallone. So First Blood is a really interesting and incredibly suspenseful book that's really about this battle of wills between the character of John Rambo, who's a Vietnam veteran who's kind of drifting across America, and the sheriff in a town that Rambo passes through. It's an absolutely brilliant book. The movie, I have to say, I think is really good as well, but I think the book is even better. And I think that is one of the problems with Morrell as a writer is, as soon as you hear that he wrote First Blood, you picture up Sylvester Stallone in Rambo 2 in the 1980s, running around in Vietnam with a big gun shooting people. And that is not what Morrell's books are like at all. So I think the curse of the success of First Blood has probably harmed Morrell's career in the long run, which I think is a real shame because I think it gives people false expectations about his books. So that's the first reason why I think maybe he isn't talked about as much as he should be. The other thing is he's written a real variety of stuff, so he doesn't really stick to one kind of book. So as I said, he's published 28 novels. There are a couple of horror novels in that, including The Totem, which I'm going to talk a bit more about today. You've got kind of the action revenge type books like First Blood. He's also written espionage books and also a series of mystery novels. So he doesn't stick to one kind of book. And you could say that all of his books kind of sit within the broader thriller genre, but he's less easy to pin down as a writer than some people. And I think from a marketing perspective, that may have hurt him a little bit as well. So he's definitely an author I think you should check out. I've read 4 of his books now. So First Blood, which I've already talked about, which is one of the most suspenseful books I've ever read. The Totem, which I'm going to talk a bit more about in this. And then also a book called Testament. So this is another kind of revenge book. I think it came out in 1975, so not long after First Blood. And it has a similar kind of suspenseful, tense vibe to First Blood. But it also has one of the most shocking openings I have ever read in a book. So this is a book that's about a journalist who has reported on a far-right group. And that far-right group come after him to get revenge. And at the start of the book, they get revenge by attacking his family. So the opening of that book is absolutely horrific. After that, it turns into more of a kind of survival type thriller, a bit like First Blood. But yeah, that opening is one of the most shocking things I've ever read. The other thing I've read by him is another horror novel, Creepers, which came out in 2005, which is a book about urban exploring and really uses that kind of background, that concept to great effect. So a really creepy and enjoyable horror novel. So yeah, he writes a variety of different things, and I think that can be to his detriment in terms of his popularity. And as well as novels, he's also written comics. So he's written issues of Spider-Man, Wolverine and Captain America. So someone who really has tried his hand at a load of different things, but as I say, all kind of within that thriller space. So let's talk in a bit more depth then about The Totem. So this is an interesting book. And one of the things that's interesting about it is this edition that I read from the 70s isn't the full version of the book. So in the 90s, Morrell published an unexpurgated version of the book, which I think is probably about 150 pages longer. I'd be interested to read that at some point, but I think this shorter version works really, really well. The reason it ended up being shorter was the publisher decided that the kind of 400 plus page manuscript he turned in was too long. This was before he became really successful, so before the movie version of First Blood kind of got people interested in him again. So yeah, he agreed to write a cut down version of the Totem, and that's the version that I read and the one that was published in the 70s. So this is a book about weird goings on in a small town, an outbreak of a disease. I'm not going to say any more than that, but the book gets creepier and creepier as the kind of plot unfolds, as you figure out more about what's going on. And it's got a wonderful sense of kind of 70s paranoia. So throughout the book, the characters in the town, in the small town that the book takes place in, and you as a reader don't really know what's going on. You just get pieces of it. The book has got a really interesting kind of fragmented style to it. And I wonder if that in part was because Morrell had to cut it down, but it actually works really, really well. You get kind of snapshots of what's going on. You never feel like you've got that whole picture. It reminded me a bit weirdly of the shower scene in Psycho. So you remember in that scene, it's kind of very staccato and you just see images. You never really feel like you're seeing everything. That definitely feels like this book as well. You feel like you are just getting glimpses of things. And it's only when you get to the end of the book that everything really comes into focus. So it's about really the local sheriff who at the start of the book discovers a corpse that has died in a weird way. So it's about him and a journalist who the sheriff has known in the past, who comes from a big city to kind of investigate what's going on. It's about the two of them trying to figure out what's happening in this town. So you get this kind of uneasy, like buddy type relationship between the two of them, which works really, really well. But you also get their different perspectives on the mystery of what is happening, which also is a kind of effective way of telling the story. But it's really the tension and the scenes of horror that make this book as good as it is. It gradually ramps up and you get some very weird and unsettling scenes. And as I say, that constant sense of paranoia, of not really understanding what's happening, but knowing that something really bad is going on. It's a very, very enjoyable and effective horror book as a result of that. So those are my thoughts on David Morrell and The Totem. Do let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Let me know if he's someone you've read. As I say, I don't think he gets nearly as much attention as he should. I definitely recommend checking out his stuff. Anyway, I will leave it there and say, as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.